Good evening. So we're going to pick right up. We'll go right here. Get onto this channel. Mute it out. And then I'm going to go right to this website. However, right now, because I got a plan, even though I don't ever seem like I have one, trust me. There's a reason why I point out so many different little things. And people sometimes get frustrated because I don't come out and say everything that I want to say. But sometimes it's for two reasons. The first, and honestly, is that I have to watch what I say so that way, if the wrong parties come around and hear it, even if I say something that seems out the way to you, I know in my heart of hearts they can only do so much with the information. With that said, top dog. I need you to understand that concept. See, I was watching a movie the other day, Chuck Norris joint, right? And don't laugh because it's not funny. Actually, I would encourage you to watch it because if you think it's fucking hilarious that I bring up Chuck Norris, then you're childish. The movie was about white supremacy. And if you didn't know this, if you actually look up the movie, its release date was 9 days uh, uh, after the Oklahoma City bombing. But the thing was, is that the movie had been in production for months. So they didn't want to scrap the movie because of what had happened with Timothy McVeigh. But the movie was about white supremacy terrorists. We'll get to all that later. But what Top Dog is a concept that may have been about a canine, but really I'm talking about who is above and on top of things. And REITs, they are real estate investment trust. It's a company that owns and in most cases operates income producing real estate. Did you hear me? That owns and in most cases operates income producing real estate. Let's go back to where I was just at. RETs bet big on the mortgage market. A once sleepy corner of the American housing finance is increasingly buying up mortgages, and it stands to grow further as the government's role in the market shrinks. Hmm. Real estate investment trusts that buy residential home loans increased their mortgage bond portfolios by almost 28% to $308 billion over the 12 months through March. It was the largest stockpile in a half dozen years, according to an analyst of 15 REITs or REITs. I'm going to call them rates by industry research group Mortgage Finance, Annaly Capital Management Incorporated, and AG&C Investment Corporation. The two biggest companies in the sector drove the majority of the growth. REITs are publicly traded entities that invest in all types of real estate and pass most of their profits along to shareholders via dividends. So if you hold stock in this shit right on the property, if you have any kind of anything invested in a property via commercial or residential, whatever your percentage is, your dividends will be paid out as that, vis-a-vis. One moment. They typically fund investments by raising capital and equity in debt markets, including through short-term financing, and they use leverage to amplify their bets. Now, we're talking about leverage. There's so many different ways. Oh my goodness. It can be legal or illegal. But the most legal term of leverage that I could think of, the fastest and the best one, is just assets and things that you hold on to at that moment that a person or a group or whatever, an entity that is of interest may have interest in. So because you have these assets, right on, this group is interested in them. It's leverage for you to say, I want the price to be a certain way. Come on, let's keep it pushing. The rates focused on home loans are small relative to the $11 trillion mortgage market, but they have become a key source of capital in the housing market. Did you hear that? Listen, they're talking about mortgages, but then it just jumps right now to the housing market. So it's different, okay? It's different. We're probably talking about renters right now and people who, once again, are renting commercial real estate, right on. Might even have long-term investments in it because you can always close down a factory and set up shop somewhere else. Amazon could always close it all up, but they're paying somebody to be where they're at. Boeing is paying to be where they're at. They don't just get to set up shop there for free. And even though that's not directly a part of housing, we're just talking about overall real estate real quick. Because that's mortgage. That is the mortgage market. Let's just go ahead and keep it pushing. But they have become a key source of capital in the housing market, particularly as the Federal Reserve trims its portfolio of mortgage bonds accumulated through stimulus measures. So this is talking about people who went in there, got banks through the federal government, can't pay them back. These guys are picking up all the tabs for that. But they're probably going to do something shiesty too, but we're going to keep it pushing. Additionally, government efforts to overhaul the housing finance system could benefit rates if policymakers clear the way for more private capital to enter. Yet some analysts worry these vehicles are putting more of the mortgage market into the hands of leveraged firms with minimal oversight. Some of the more risky mortgage rates went bust during the last financial crisis. The last boom for this financial sector in 2013 prompted calls for increased regulatory supervision, but they didn't result in any new regulations. In quotes, to get returns they leverage they were leveraged pretty dramatically, said Ted Tozer, a fellow at the Milken Institute and former president of Government Mortgage Corporation, Ginnie Mae. Speaking of rates during the 2013 boom, still he said he believes the presence of mortgage rates in the current market is welcome. Rates have gone in and out of style over years, but recently they have been on the upswing. Rates focused on mortgages raised $6.2 billion in equity to increase their investment portfolios the most since 2013, according to data provider Dealogic. They are on pace to have a bigger 2019. Some trader and former bankers have migrated to rates. David Finkelstein, once a trader at Barclays PLC and Citigroup Incorporated, is now Chief Investment Officer at Annaly. William Roth, once in sales and trading at Citigroup Incorporated, is now Chief Investment Officer at Two Harbors Investment Corporation. Michael Nierenberg, who oversaw securitized products at JP Morgan Chase Incorporated company, and the Bank of America Corporation is now chief executive at New Residential Investment Corporation. Rates and banks maintain a somewhat interdependent relationship. Let's stop right there. Just in case you forgot what the word is, it is a real estate investment trust. It's a company that owns, and in most cases, operates income producing real estate. Okay. So it's a company. Got to understand. Now, I told us about the two companies earlier that are on top. I can't think of both their names right off the top of my head, but we'll go back up and look at them. I need you guys to understand this right here. The reason why I break Top Dog in with the financial market overlook is so that way you can understand that top dog means top dog in everything. It's not just one fact. I don't talk about anything for my health, okay? Because trust and believe, Demetrius Antoine Jones already knows whatever information he's bringing to you. Even if I didn't read this article, everything I'm reading, there's none of this is a surprise to me. This is all a repeat of what happened 12 years ago. But anyway, only on a different level, and this is the same thing that has happened in America repetitiously forever and ever and ever since this country's been started. You know. Anyway, rates and banks maintain a somewhat interdependent relationship. So these businesses are dependent on the banks, and the banks are dependent on these businesses. Can you dig it? They somewhat depend on each other. Banks are taking a less active role in the mortgage market than they did before the financial crisis. Probably because these banks helped start these companies, okay, or these rates, okay, these real estate investment trusts, okay. They probably helped start a lot. Man, anyway, it's like if you follow the money, you always get the answers you want. I don't try to follow the money too much because I do too much as it is already. I don't need more problems. But banks provide short-term financing to rates that are making these same investments. Excuse me. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Banks are taking a less active role in the mortgage market than they did before the financial crisis. People in the industry say, but banks provide short-term financing to rates that are making these same investments. So listen, they're saying right now that the banks are the ones. I don't know if you guys remember this. They got bailed out. Everybody got bailed out. All the banks got bailed out. The auto industry got bailed out. All this shit. So, and so when Obama did that, he did the stimulus package. He did both of the stimulus packages. He did the one stimulus package that people got immediately right then and there, and then he did the other one where if you filed your taxes or whatever, you got more money not too long after that once you filed your taxes. It was anyway, man. This is just me speaking on the situation and just knowing it. Uh, but these are still the same banks that got bailed out ultimately. And they're saying that these companies depend on these banks to pretty much give them the money. Now, I want y'all to understand something. These are the same people who are starting who are putting on these little infomercials on the internet and on TV telling you that if you come, I'll show you how to flip with somebody else's money and this, that, and the other. These are the same people, man. Anyway, I can't break it down to you enough, but I'm going to keep it pushing. We are doing things they don't want to do, said Kevin Keys, the chief executive officer of Annaly and the veteran of Bank of America and Credit Suisse Group AG. For investors, mortgage rates have produced mixed results in recent years, despite their large dividend payouts. Want to know why? Because you have only so many people winning off of it. I want y'all to understand. It told us that the people who are known for turning over a profit are the rates. Okay? So the problem is this right here is that you have guys who try to go into business for themselves, can't get the capital that these other guys get to have people fix things up for next to nothing, flip the house for the high or as close as they can get, or get into a really good rent to own situation to where they can start to see their money come back within like a 5-year period, 7-year period or whatever. Uh, Granted that they don't have to fix too much because the maintenance shouldn't be too much. These are small things, but these are things that I have to add to it to give to the situation. But when you're top dog, when you're able to do things that other people can't do, right? It allows you to be in a situation and a position to abuse people. This is the truth. And the reason why I bring this up is because once again in the movie Top Dog with Chuck Norris, it was a billionaire dude who was subsidizing, the entire situation for these so-called white supremacists. And I need y'all to understand, man, the movie's deep as fuck. You need to really watch it. The acting's not 1,000, and there's a lot of racist little shit, even by Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris say some whole shit to the little half breed or quarter breed chick, but that's neither here nor there. Uh, uh, you just need to understand that movies like that were way ahead of their time because the atmosphere we're in now is really preaching, you know, that these people weren't far off. You know what I mean? They weren't far off at all. They were actually right. But let's just go ahead and keep it pushing. For investors, mortgage rates, real estate investment trusts have produced mixed results in recent years, despite large dividend payouts, probably to the highest bidders, again, people who have the most money. Annually stock return 37% over the past 5 years, including dividends, while two Herberts returned 31%. New residential returned 148%, one of the few mortgage rates to beat the S&P's 565% over the past 5 years. Now, new residential is probably somebody who's a small ass group, little group. They're taking minimal risk, okay, and so their returns are super high, probably because they're taking the least amount of risk. And these are people who are being affected. When you're seeing this video right here, this lady, I couldn't turn it all up, but when you're seeing people like her, these are people who are affected by what they're doing. It's their wickedness. You know what I mean? Man, I can't take it. I hate it. Anyway, proponents of rates say structures make them an optimal backbone for the mortgage market, but they are able to quickly raise and deploy money when they see an opportunity. They also employ less leverage than in earlier eras and manage risk carefully. Industry representatives say, okay, they're trying to say that that they don't bulldog people with like we'll raise the markets in this and we'll you know what I mean, we'll cut you off here, we'll do this here, there's a whole lot of different ways you can have leverage, and I'm just speaking on the legal manner. So the illegal shit you can have leverage in is something totally different. But the leverage you can have just on the legal side of things, on the paperwork side of things, could be insurmountable and make you a juggernaut, and then make it to where nobody want to do business with you or people got nothing good to say about you. You see what I'm saying? So the banks use the rates to do business. So that way you don't think you're doing business with this bank, but really you're doing business with that bank. And now that bank is going to fuck you whenever they see fit. But anyway, let's keep it pushing. Home financing mortgage rates have a median leverage ratio of almost 12 times before the financial crisis, but were recently at 5 times, according to Narrate, a trade group. If you want to have more private capital in the market, you need to manage the risk, said Calvin Schooner. I think that's his name, Calvin Schooner, Senior Vice President for Research and Economic Analyst at Narrate. Mortgage rates hedge all of those risks. Aside from the vanilla mortgage bonds, some mortgage rates are looking farther afield for investments. New residential, which is managed by the private equity firm Fortress Investment Group LLC, owns the servicing rights on more than $500 billion of mortgages. Wow. The result of a buying spree in recent years. That asset entitles the firm to a stream of income from tasks such as collecting mortgage payments, dealing with taxes, and handling delinquencies. Annaly and other firms have been buying up mortgages that have traditionally been the domain of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and putting them into private mortgage bonds. It is an area of the market that can grow if the government tries to shrink the two mortgage giants. Mortgage rates also have structured and invested in deals made up of jumbo and unconventional mortgages that Fannie and Freddie don't purchase. Now listen, stand up right here. Let me just stop the shit right here. I need y'all to understand what the fuck they're saying right now. They're saying, look, what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac couldn't do, right? Which is in some cases sick the dogs on you. These rates. Listen, did you hear what I just said to you? Let me read how much money they have. Oh my goodness. Aside from vanilla mortgage bonds, some mortgage rates are looking farther afield for investments. New Residential, which is a private equity firm, which is a place that specializes in crashing businesses to the ground. Fortress Investment Group (LLC) owns the servicing right on more than $500 billion or more than $500 billion. Did you hear me? On more than half of it. On more than half a trillion. Damn, oh my goodness. They own more than $500 billion, okay, of servicing rights, assets, okay, of mortgages, the result of a buying spree in recent years. So what happened is that when the housing market crashed, they bought all that shit up. They're not really tripping if it goes to being worth nothing, because if everything goes right, the housing market will boom again. The housing market will boom again. Excuse that inappropriate ad, and they'll buy up everything else in their heads. Trying to get y'all to understand, man. They're bastards. Annaly and other firms have been buying up mortgages that have traditionally been the domain of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac,
LaCroix
and
sparkling
putting
water
them
may
into
have made itself a
private
household
bonds.
name by
Oh,
being the
here we
natural
go.
and innocent alternative to other fizzy
One
drinks.
moment,
But according to
y'all.
a research note obtained by Daily Mail from an analyst with Guggenheim
Racist.
Securities, quote, the LaCroix brand has gone from bad to worse to disastrous after a lawsuit surfaced in
Damn.
October of 20.
Don't worry. We'll listen to LaCroix's nonsense later, but first we gotta finish this. These guys. Annaly and other firms have been buying up mortgages that have traditionally been the domain of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and putting them into private mortgage bonds. It is an area of the market that could grow if the government tries to shrink the two mortgage giants. Mortgage rates have also instructed and invested in deals made up of jumbo and unconventional mortgages that Fannie and Freddie don't purchase. So listen, they're trying to say right now that we'll take all the debt on because it doesn't matter. They have a what? They'll just force you out the house, dog. Okay, they're a bank. All right, the federal government can't call the cops on you per se, but these guys will have you evicted by the sheriffs, thrown the fuck out on your head if you don't. Man, this shit is so deep. Anyway, rates are big buyers of securities sold by Fannie and Freddie that transfer default risk associated with the mortgages they back. In a sign that traditional players are making room for rates, Fannie and Freddie recently tweaked these investment vehicles to make them easier for rates to buy. If the goal to disperse more and more risk, you have to get more investors involved, said Michael Frattoni. These guys with these names, man. Frattoni, chief economist at the Mortgage Bankers Association. Now listen to this. What they're really trying to say right now, this shit is deep, because I want to tie this into HUD and the HUD, how they get ready to try to crash HUD in a little bit. If these guys buy up all that type of stuff right there, I mean, like you'd have so many people homeless, and it's really a crazy situation they're trying to create. If you guys really understand what they're trying to do right now, it's man, it's super wicked. It's super wicked. Uh, Top Dog is a vicious one, y'all. You know, I want y'all to understand that this is 4 days ago. This is the type of stuff I was talking about from almost a week ago. We would have to go over. Uh, but don't worry though. I just need y'all to understand that it's truly a sad situation because they're just buying. Listen, over 12 months, so $308 billion over the past 12 months. Right? I need y'all to understand this. These guys, the largest one, if we go down here, right? The biggest rate pretty much right now, new residential, okay, which is managed by the private equity firm Fortress Investment Group LLC. So I lied. That 148% might be by these guys filing for bankruptcy and other types of shit, man. Oh my goodness. It is vicious. It is listen, y'all need to understand. Y'all need to understand how they do it is they sell off everything for a profit. They file for bankruptcy. Don't give nothing back. It's not just they're not just talking about um buying up houses in the housing market, man. I need you to understand these are the same types of people that have been buying up freaking grocery markets and putting fucking dollar stores in the same place. Can you follow me? You know, I'm reading all these things to you to say things like that. Like it's a big picture that you need to grasp that these people are trying to run. But let me just go ahead and just kill this for a second. I'm not gonna worry about that. Stop. What up? But check this out. So there's like 5 or 6 articles right here we gotta go through. Well, I'm not gonna go through all of them. I'm gonna go through like 2 or 3 of them. And they're all right here. Yeah. So what's going on? Go to links. Let me see. All right. I couldn't find one of the old little articles that I had saved uh, about the people who were getting punked off the land in like the south of the border or whatever. But I couldn't help but to feel that one of these people, I mean, like not one of these people, but one of these groups are part of the groups that are with the government, outside of the government, that are trying to buy up the property. Um, it's really epic thing when you think about it. Um, the Trump administration. I'm going to jump to that in a second. There's something I wanted to show you before this. Where is it at? Let's check that. Okay. That's one I wanted to get to. This is fine. Hold on. 1 second. Okay, so I got one of them that's wrong. But I'm gonna get to these two. That's right here first. So what I wanted to talk about is like there's so much going on that people really don't get. I wanted to hit on the wall, but I'm not gonna talk about the wall. The wall's not even in my mind right now. That's laid down. That's proof in the pudding. It's over. Last, when I think about that, that's like that's a factual, thing. Like there's no denying that. People want to say that that's not happening. That's happening. Um, I don't want to get too carried off in stuff that's going on that I can't do nothing about. I feel bad for the stuff that's going out there in Virginia. It really does suck. But that's just we haven't seen who the shooter is. Nothing. Yeah, they don't want to say nothing. So but I'm gonna keep it where it's at in Top Dog. And I wanted to talk about this concept in this movie that was really epic. And I didn't want to get, no shit with YouTube trying to flag it down or whatever because I want people to be able to see what I did first, which was that housing market thing. Um, and understand like what they're trying to do to people. Number two, I also need people to see that like the movie had an atmosphere that's closer to today, a little exaggerated, you know, but not really exaggerated. Like if you could replace these dudes trying to blow stuff up with them trying to shoot stuff up, it's the same concept. And so you have these different entities who are top dog. Like you have to realize, like it's what people have to realize though, like every level of the game, people are involved in everything. You know, so don't think that Walmart, just because it's Walmart, doesn't have its hand somewhere in real estate because the real estate that they get to put their buildings on is massive. You know what I'm talking about? You feel what I'm saying? So they would, even if they don't have rate groups, they have someone who's in the housing market or let's just say the real estate market, what the real estate market in general and they have people who go out and look and survey the land and say, okay, well, look, there's so much land here. It's this far from a main road. If we break down and dig the dirt out like this, build the land up like this, then we can funnel the traffic in that's driving this way and that way into our property. And I'm talking about not, not just a couple, 100,000 square feet. I'm talking like, the better side of 500,000 square feet. Because you have to think there has to be a large area for parking, and then there has to be a large area in the store. So there might even be a better part of 1 million square feet, or something like that, you know. Uh, uh, But anyway, it's just not to get carried away. But Top Dog is really about that concept, like who is in charge. Let me show y'all something. I'm gonna read it to you first, and then I'm gonna show it to you. Public health warning: possible future site of a 5G small cell installation. 5G enabled small cell antennas are a source of constant radio frequency microwave radiation. Wireless radiation. Studies have shown that chronic exposure to this type of radiation can cause cancer, neurological problems, and other serious health effects. This antenna will be emitting radiation whether nearby residents subscribe to the service or not. There is no way to turn it off. For more ways to find out what you can do to stop the deployment of these and other small antennas in our neighborhoods, visit 5gcrisis.com. I need y'all to understand this shit is real. I pulled this off a sign close to where I live. We're not going to get too carried away with all that. But Top Dog is real, and that's real. 5G is like a concept of Top Dog. 5G is like a concept of like real estate gone bad. Because if people thought that, 4G LGE was bad, and they thought that it caused for pacemakers and things like that to go awry, 5G is going to kill people, you know. And I think people need to understand, like where I live, the side of town where I live on is not like I don't live in like no ghetto. You feel me? 20 years ago this was like a ghetto, but it's not now. So you can't even associate that type of mentality, you know. And the whole 5G stuff is real. You know what I mean? Like, and it's all part of the whole scheme. But I need people to really get the concept that I'm coming with. Like I could have had a picture up of a little cuddly little dog the whole time. It changes nothing. You know, we're still holding to the fire. I think people forget I'm holding to the fire. If you're not, the 1619 prophecy, that myth, till it comes true, it's all bullshit to me. Can you dig? And this is a part of it. This whole concept, there are ways of trying to distract people from looking at what is supposed to happen. There are things that are supposed to take place. Now, if, just listen to me, it said it could cause neurological problems. Imagine this. Just imagine. Demetrius is going out on a limb now. I don't want the government to come pick me up and throw me in a black van, but I'm going to go out on a limb. Imagine you were an evil scientist who worked within the government and had power over everything that happened within the government and every facet that affects regular life. And you said, I want you to produce GMO food and nonsense like that and put it all in the dollar stores. I want you to take all the tainted food from the places that don't want it anymore and put it also in those places, okay, of their dwelling and their being. I want you also now to go with the money that you're going to be given, buy up all of the real estate in these places, all right? You're going to turn this part of town into a vestige of hope and prestige. You're going to turn this part of town into something that they shun. You're going to turn this part of town into an intermediate area, something that could either fall off or gain its foothold. And this latter part of town is almost as if it's like it doesn't exist. The reason why it doesn't exist is because it's somewhere further. It's the outskirts, but it's this fourth part is a encompassing thing. And what you need to get is that while we have all this poor food going on to them, okay, I need you to understand that we're going to affect how they live and where they live and their ability to live. When we do this, only when we do this, because you need to realize the housing crisis didn't displace people who were on government housing. So if these real estate investment trusts buy up the contracts for government housing for people who have housing, guess what? They're now in charge. Guess what? That means that the banks are now in charge. Right. So they could raise up the rents and everything. And you can't afford it. Now you're homeless or struggling to live where you live. Hold on. Not because you can't afford it, but because you've developed a lifestyle that you can't sustain the lifestyle and afford to live this, because they're going to force people to almost pay regular rent. Oh, follow me. Beautiful though, because now you have this 5G thing, right? 4G is a frequency. 4G LTE is a frequency. 3G is a frequency. 2G is a frequency. Whatever 1G or whatever the hell that is, all that is a frequency. It emits radiation. Cell phones give people cancer now, to this very day. So you're telling me that something that is wireless radiation I'm just trying to tell you, man. I'm just speaking to the situation. But let's just go ahead and just keep it going. This 5G though, this 5G thing is so epic because what it does is it makes people not really understand that it's going to hit their psyche. So imagine a man who's eating food that is already not normal is put into a situation that has been created by the government that is supposed to so-called protect his best interest by a group of people who are known for gaining profits. Then a system, a frequency that can affect not only his physical health, but his mental health is now employed. What do you think a person like that will resort to? And then what do you think they'll implement to keep people who are susceptible to that sort of condition from being able to act? See, if I throw in the college stuff, the college admissions, and really just, I mean, man, the shit is so deep. It's top dog concept. You gotta really get it. Like it's it's just like them being 10 toes down. It's no different. It's the same thing, but approached from a different angle. Like I said, I say the same thing over time, different, so that way people can see that they're not just one thing. They are multiple entities. They are what's the word? Multifaceted, if you will. And there's nothing you can do about it. All you can do is stay alive. You know, I encourage you, I implore you to learn what it is that they put out before us. Now, let me go ahead and read something else to you guys about the Chinese, and their attempt to play big homie abroad. One moment. And these are small things, to the giants, I guess, but they do pertain to us. One moment. Away, away, orders employees to cut meetings with U.S., sends American workers home, Financial Times report. Huawei's chief strategy architect tells FT American citizens working in research and development were repatriated 2 weeks ago. A man walks past a board showing Hawaii University's model and training center at the headquarters Friday. Now, listen, I want you to understand. What did you do right here? That's a Coca-Cola bottle or something like that. It looks like it, right? Or something like that's a ripoff. So y'all got to realize these are people who still want to be white people. They want to be top dog. They want to control the idea or the narrative of whatever people think. You understand? It's no different than the dirty bastards who want to control the real estate. It's all the same shit. Tech giant, Huawei, has ordered its employees to cancel technical meetings with American contact with American contacts and has sent home numerous U.S. employees working at its Chinese headquarters in Shenzhen, the Financial Times reported on Friday. The moves came amid growing U.S. and China tensions over trade and technology, in which Huawei, China's leading telecommunications equipment maker, has been a primary target. Now this shit goes all the way back to, see, I remember I followed it. I've been following this, y'all. I've been following this. Remember when I did the little video about the chick who got arrested? Was it in Canada, the Chinese chick? All right, come on now. That move has had implications where specific moves were made in the trade war because of that arrest. Believe that, but we're gonna keep it pushing. And she was a lady, not a dude. Okay. So once again, you can be a chick and be important. It just people play their role. She plays her role. You know what I'm saying? She don't try to get out there and do shit that she's not supposed to be doing. And when she got arrested, it was funny style So the Chinese have been trying to apply, leverage every single way that they can. And I'm going to show you another way that they've been trying to apply leverage. The newspaper quoted Huawei's chief strategy architect, Deng Wenxuan, as saying that American citizens working in its research and development are repatriated 2 weeks ago. So they might have become expats, right on, to come over there and work. And China said, I'm an expat. I want to live in China. I want to become a Chinese citizen. And they repatriated them by making them, you feel me, like, you're no longer an expat. You got to go back to your country, dog. Fuck out of here. Anyway, after the Chinese group and 68 affiliates were placed on the U.S. Commerce Department's entity list, which effectively bars American firms from selling components to Huawei without government approval. Now, this is part of the top dog approach, because top dog doesn't want somebody who can take their position, okay, without their approval. Why would you give up dominancy to somebody that you don't trust or that you don't think has your best interest in mind? It's like giving up the kingdom. Eventually, you're going to get old, right? But if you think your kingdom is still good to go, you're not going to give it over. Let's go ahead and keep it pushing. The Financial Times said that a workshop underway at Huawei at the time was hastily disbanded, and American delegates were asked to remove their laptops, isolate their networks, and leave the Huawei premises. It quoted Deng as saying Huawei is also limiting interactions between its employees and American citizens. Huawei declined to comment on the report. Now, I need you to understand, before we keep going further, now y'all can assume that every single worker working at Huawei that was American was white, but you can believe some of those people working there were brothers, possibly even sisters. You understand? And they were asked to leave because of the shit that Trump pulled. So understand that just because you're a nigga, you're still an American to them, dog. And that's the bottom line. And they might have been making bomb-ass money. Now, they might come to America and work for a company that's paying them, in their minds, considerably less, because they might be making, in American standards, almost $20,000 to $30,000 less a year, But the Americans might look at it as, at least you're back home. So there's different dynamics of it. There's different ways of looking at it. But I just need y'all to understand that this affects Black people by and part, because there's a lot of smart, intelligent brothers and sisters who were probably working within this company, I'm sure. And before anybody try to say, oh, do the research to it, it's like there's no need to. Because I know that there's niggas who live in China right now who do these types of jobs. Thank you very much. Now let's keep it pushing. China's Commerce Ministry announced Friday that it would establish its own list of foreign enterprises, organizations, and individuals it deemed to be unreliable entities as possible response to the U.S. blacklist. Entities are unreliable if they fail to comply with the market rules and break from the spirit of contracts and block or stop supplying Chinese enterprise for non-commercial reasons, seriously damaging the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese enterprises. Ministry spokesman Gao Feng said at a news briefing. Gao said that the specific measures to be taken against the entities will be announced at a later date. The purpose of the list is to oppose, unilateralism, one moment, and trade protectionism, as well as safeguard China's national, safeguard China's national security. He said, "I don't know why I got so tongue tied." And this is all different These are all different little articles. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep reading just a little couple more. Listen to this one. Why Huawei CEO Ren Zhengfei is reading The American Trap by Frenchman Frederic Pierucci, a book chronicling former Alstom executives' imprisonment in the U.S. on bribery charges, is being read by Huawei employees. The American Trap is the top-selling book on Chinese e-commerce sites and goes on sale on Hong Kong on Friday. Oh, this shit is about to break some records. He's fucking them up. Frederick Periucci. Okay, there you go. That's him right there. Author of the book Le Page American or the American. I love it. I love it. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Or the American Trap says China has become the next big target of the U.S. extra extraterrestrial extraterritorial. I'm sorry. Citing the cases of Huawei Technologies and ZTE. Listen, this dude says, "Look, yo, look, whatever I did was enough for these cats to lock me up. So if they locked up Baby Girl, okay, or like one of your head CEOs people, it's about to go down. And the reason why it's the head selling book is because the Chinese people want to see what they did to him, so that way they can try to avoid the same trap. So if you see less Chinese people being like, you know what, I want to go back home, anything like that. I don't think a lot of them are gonna want to go back home, but if you see any of like the ones who were like super duper into the movement, like I'm out of here, that's this is part of the stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't want to be looked at as a spy. Like you got to realize it hasn't jumped off like that, but it could very well jump off where somebody gets accused of being a spy. Who's gonna stop you from being accused of being a spy, dog? Nobody. Right. Let's keep it pushing. When photos of Huawei Technologies founder Ren Zhengfei showing journalists around his office began to circulate this week, there was a book on his desk that caught the eye of the Chinese internet community. The Tone, a Chinese translation of La Page Américaine, The American Trap, was written by Frenchman Friedrich Periucci, a former executive of French rail transport company Alstom, about his 5-year long tussle with the U.S. Department of Justice. The American Trap, which was released in France in January, I'm about to buy that. I got to get that. I got to get that. Was a top selling business management book on JD.com and number one new title on DangDang.com. I love it. These Chinese people with these dang dang. These guys are retarded. Two popular Chinese e-commerce sites. So number one, so JD.com and Dang Dang are Chinese websites, Chinese e-commerce sites. The book, written by journalist Matthew Aaron, goes on sale in Hong Kong on Friday. The book has captured the imagination of Chinese readers because it mirrors in some ways what happened to Huawei Chief Financial Officer Meng Wanzhou, who was detained in Vancouver on December 1st and is out on bail and facing extradition to the U.S. on allegations of helping defraud banks to circumvent U.S. sanctions on Iran. Wow! Can y'all dig it? Niggas need to listen to your boy. Periucci was arrested as he disembarked from a Cathay Pacific flight in New York on 2013. He pleaded guilty to charges of authorizing bribes to Indonesian officials to win a boiler plant order under an anti-corruption law that allowed the U.S. to purchase cases overseas, and the transaction was made in U.S. dollars or email passed through the U.S. servers. Ah, wow. So he pretty much bought up a site. You know what I mean? He bribed some niggas to get a certain, you feel me, piece of a location, and so the U.S. said we're gonna get that ass. But he's like, I don't see what that has to do with the U.S. because I use U.S. dollars or whatever. Like, I feel you, bruh. I feel you. The U.S. is so grimy, man. Anyway, Periucci ended up serving 2 years in prison in Pennsylvania and Rhode Island. It was out on parole for 3 years. He claims that the anti-corruption investigation was motivated by the U.S. helping General Electric in its acquisition of Alstrom's energy business. Right. Oh, listen. So he's saying, listen, he worked in a position where he was in an Ostrom company, right? In an Ostrom's company. And what happened is that GE, they wanted a piece, and I think they tried to squeeze this nigga for the information. You know what I'm saying? It was like, yeah, we're gonna lock that ass up and we gonna put the tight, vice grips on him, and he should give somebody up or give up a piece of information that's crucial to the game. And maybe he did, or maybe he didn't. Who really knows? But the whole thing is that he's just breaking it down in a book, and I got to read the book because then I'll be able to read between the lines. In an interview with the South China Morning Post from Paris, Periucci said that Europe was previously a target of America's extraterritorial laws, while China is the next target, citing the cases of Huawei and ZTE Corp as example. Huawei was added to the U.S. trade blacklist this month, prohibiting it from doing business with American companies without permission under a presumption of denial. See, that's the end of that article. I'm not gonna keep going because I could just keep reading these joints. The Chinese like to try to go in and stick it to them wherever they can. Let me go ahead and read something real quick. That's a little closer to home. A little easier also to grasp. And I'm not going to get right into it because I'm going to weigh in the Chinese situation. Y'all got to realize the ZTE are a lot of the phones. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the Android phones are ZTE phones. You know, uh, the Americans are the Americans are mad or angry because the ZTE phones are servicing people. Now here's the craziest thing though. You can't stop companies that are so-called American from having products made in China because it's cheaper or whatever. So really, there's no indefinite win to the situation. What it becomes is like a constant tug of war. But the Chinese are super duper smart for how they're playing it because they're like, okay, well, we're just going to put all these businesses on a list of things that are unreliable. And the Chinese have already driven certain businesses into the ground. So it's like, it could almost be like punishment for doing business with the white devil almost type thing, like having your business driven into the ground at this point, the way I'm looking at how they're getting down. Like their get down is vicious. You guys need to really watch how they're getting down. Their get down is vicious. Now, let me go ahead and just bump this right here real quick because I need y'all to understand that Chinese are everywhere. They're in South America. They're in Central America. They own half, if not most, if not all of the Panama Canal. Legitimately. I'm not saying that the U.S. are ever gonna really let them have full control of it, but you know what I'm saying? Oh, that's theirs. And other structures. Um, the reason why I bring this up is because I can't help but to think that the Chinese are really the backbone to funding a lot of this stuff. And the cartels are just taking the heat. But the Chinese do a lot of business with the Taliban, who do a lot of business with the cartels. So if you wanted to blame, you see what I'm saying? Like it's a whole bunch of one hand washing the other and a whole bunch of dirty ass characters in one nasty ass game. It's really vicious. Like I wish people read more, you know what I mean? But I really can't encourage them to, I can all I say is just just pay attention to what's going on and just try to stay alive. Uh, but the Trump admin to send DSHS to the Department of Homeland Security agents, investigators to the Guatemala-Mexico border. So you don't understand. Right before it breaks into Central America, there's Guatemala, right? And then there's Mexico, right? And they say, look, dog, look, I need y'all to go ahead and go there and hash that out because they're coming from Central. They're not coming out of Mexico. And really what it is they want to see if they are coming out of Mexico and they're just claiming that they're coming from a place and have documents Maybe they have dual citizenship because one parent is this and one parent is that. You never know. So, uh, just like the Mexican dude told me, he said, "Yeah, man, guys come up to Mexico, the cartels. This is interesting." He said that a lot of the cartel dudes that come up there, or a lot of the cartel guys that are there, are actually guys that came from Central and South America, mainly from Central America. He said, and they make people pay taxes and they start going hard. But anyway, let's read this. Dozens, so who knows how many, of Homeland Security agents and investigators were deployed to Guatemala as a part of Trump administration's desperate attempt. Look at that word, desperate, to slow unauthorized migration to the United States from Central America, according to U.S. officials with knowledge of the plans. The Department of Homeland Security personnel will work as advisors to Guatemala's national police and migration authorities. They will aim to disrupt and interdict human smuggling operations, the official said, speaking on the condition of anonymity to describe a plan that has yet been made public. U.S. authorities hope that the effort will cut off popular routes to the United States and deter migrants from beginning their journeys north through Mexico. Plans call for at least several dozen DSH agents and investigators and one DSH official briefed on the plans. Said about 80 U.S. law enforcement personnel deployed. Okay, about 80. So let's say about 100. Okay, will deploy as a part of the mission. All right, listen. About 80 U.S. law enforcement personnel. Whoa, stop. Several dozen plus 80 U.S. law enforcement. Man, there's a couple hundred people on this shit, y'all. It's about to go down. They're trying to stymie the tide. They're like, how many people do we really need? Can we really send down there to like really slow it down? It's wow. Top dog. It takes real shit to prove that I'm in charge. And this is one of their moves. This could turn out to be catastrophic. And will send 18 Homeland Security investigative agents and intelligence analysts with 6 agents from the Enforcement and Removal Operations Division. Who knows what who knows what Enforcement and Removal Operations Division does? But it sounds like they enforce and remove motherfuckers. So we're gonna see. Acting DSS Secretary Kevin McAleenan has advocated that more muscular. Oh wow! Advocated the more muscular DHS presence and finalized the agreement with Guatemalan President Jimmy Morales and other top Guatemalan officials during meetings this week in Guatemala City. The U.S. and Guatemala are formalizing a number of initiatives to improve the lives and security of our respective citizens by combating human trafficking, the smuggling of illegal goods, and helping to limit push factors that encourage dangerous, irregular migration to the U.S., perpetuating the ongoing crisis at our border. McAleenan said in a statement after signing a memorandum of cooperation with Guatemalan officials. President Trump, who threatened Thursday to impose severe tariffs on Mexican imports if the country's government doesn't crack down on migration, said he will cut off aid to Central America in an effort to pressure the region's leaders. But Michelina has urged more, not less cooperation with Central America, and is planned to assign personnel from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection and Homeland Security investigations to work alongside Guatemalan police amounts to an attempt to put out more weight behind the approach. Now, do y'all remember that article I read to y'all when they was sending out hella people all over the fucking U.S., right? With planes, and they've been sending them all over the U.S. and it's quiet as kept. They've been doing this shit, and they're gonna keep doing it. Understand this is why this is happening right now. It's because they're like, look, fuck that. I'm trying to tell y'all, man, because the Trump administration has got the word that some of these dudes are Chinese and Arabs, and they come here with nefarious intent. I'm telling you. But anyway, you don't have to believe me. Let's just keep on going. Oh, I love this stuff. The U.S. agents probably would deploy to Guatemala and its border with Mexico for weeks at a time with with an advisory role. Okay. U.S. security personnel assigned to Guatemala are typically authorized to carry weapons. So they're letting you know right now if they're strapped up. They're going there strapped up. Oh, this shit is epic. Look, look. They're not going to Guatemala with no guns. What? Please. Anyway, let's go ahead and just keep it pushing. I love it. Other areas of cooperation include increasing the security of the Guatemalan border to stem the flow of irregular migration while ensuring proper preparation to improve the ability of both countries to identify and better understand the root causes, according to a DHS news release. While the scale of the deployment and the location, the Guatemala Mexico border would be unusual. There are precedents for U.S. law enforcement presence in Central America. Armed Drug Enforcement Administration agents conduct operations in the region, and CPB advisors work with the Mexican officials to improve immigration screening procedures and to upgrade technology. So not only are they going to be there, but you got the DEA there. I said almost forgot about the DEA. DEA's down there. We're about to go down. Probably got CIA running around down there. Come on, man. All kinds of shit. It's crazy. One of the areas U.S. agents will target is the Department of Huehue Tenan- Tenango, Huehue Tenango, and Guatemala's destitute Western Highlands, where immigration levels are among the highest in the region. Villages among the Pan American Highway through the Huehue Tenango have been emptying out, and in some places, residents have had the populations says half the population has left for the U.S. in the past 2 years. Coffee fields have been abandoned. Many families have used their houses as collateral for the trip, taking out loans to pay their smugglers. According to DHS officials, 3% of Huehue Tenango's entire population have left for the United States in the past 7 months. In the border city of La Mesilla, just south of Mexican state of Chiapas, some migrants arrive at night at the local bus terminal where they took local where they look for smugglers to hire. Okay, so they pull up there and they say, "I'm looking for the young coyote." Nearby hotels include the Texas Motel, named for some of the migrants' destination, cater to their families on the way north. Many leave Massalia by truck and van, arriving at unmarked border crossings not far from main highway corridors. U.S. authorities have apprehended more than 100,000 migrants crossing the border from Mexico in each of the past 3 months, and unauthorized border crossings have soared to the highest levels in at least 12 years. In 20 years, Michelinin has told reporters Thursday that the border agents are processing on average 4,500 people each day, an increase of more than 30% since March, when he declared that the U.S. agents and infrastructure had hit the breaking point. In rural Guatemala, there was a widespread belief that bringing a child on the journey to the U.S. will make it easier to avoid detention and deportation. U.S. courts have limited the amount of time children can be held in immigration jail to 20 days. And because U.S. authorities can't process their asylum claims that fast, the families are typically issued a court appointment and released into the U.S. Interior. I love it. That's the thing everyone knows now. If you go, you need to bring a child, said Juan Vasquez from La, La Libertad, who is considering migrating with his two daughters in coming weeks. You can bring someone else's child, but they are now saying, but they say they are now doing DNA tests on the border, which make it difficult. Wow! Listen to the hustle. Do y'all hear the hustle? The hustle was so cold. The U.S. said, "Nah, man, that baby don't look nothing like this dude or nothing like this chick, man." Do you feel me? Come on, man. This shit is so vicious. Let's just keep it real. Top Dog is telling the truth, okay? The United States has no such policy, but Trump last year ordered an end to family separations of migrants apprehended at the border after his zero tolerance crackdown triggered a ferocious backlash. He has since insisted that family separations would have worked as a deterrent if he had kept them in place. He's right. He's right. He's right. He's right. If they had just kept breaking down families, they would have stopped coming, and that would have been the end of that. But prophecy says, look, bro, we need everybody in there to fuck Babylon up. So let's keep it pushing. At least 9 people accused of human smuggling were arrested in Guatemala City on Wednesday, part of a joint operation between DHS and Guatemalan authorities, according to Guatemalan officials. It was the first such joint operation after signing the memorandum. So they're like, look, we'll cut it off right here. We'll cut off the head of the dragon. Then we'll see who else is on this shit. But that could be a setup, man. It could be a setup. That man, that shit is crazy. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Do y'all understand what I'm reading to you guys right now? We are reading the future of what is going on down there at the border. Excuse me. At the scene of the arrest, officials wearing jackets emblazoned with the acronym for Homeland Security Investigations, a division of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, a division of ICE, were standing next to Guatemalan police officers. U.S. Rep. Vicente Gonzalez, Democrat Texas, said he met with Guatemala's ambassador to the United States, Manuel Espina. Espina told him Guatemala would welcome U.S. troops to help secure its northern border. After the meeting, Gonzalez wrote a letter to the President Trump urging him to accept the offer. The letter asking the president to send the military personnel was obtained by the Washington Post. Guatemalan President Jimmy Morales has indicated that he would welcome the introduction of U.S. troops on Guatemala's northern border. Gonzalez wrote on April 16th. If you want to see fewer apprehensions at the U.S. border, I would strongly encourage you to seriously consider President Morales' offer. Gonzalez says he believes sending 100 U.S. agents, like I said, it's 100 plus the cops, so 180, so 200 people would be insufficient, and he will continue to pushing to send the military forces to Guatemala with Morales' approval on a humanitarian mission to help secure Guatemala's border. Gonzalez said he did not receive a response from the White House. Wow. Are y'all hearing this? They were like, look, Trump, we can't let you do what you're trying to do right now, guys. But if you want to send the military to Central America and then eventually find yourself, in a place like El Salvador, and then you're like, you know what? Is that Venezuela over there floating in the water? Let me just go see what they're about right now. I mean, look, you gotta understand, because it has mainland like little small islands, but you know what I'm saying though, like, so I just want y'all to understand, like, shit is about to go down. Top Dog is not playing, okay? Everybody wants to be in charge and the head of the game for some odd reason. I don't know. Maybe it's because they ain't never, ever been in charge of nothing or never been the head of nothing, and I don't do that to you. Like if you've never been the person or like the dude, yeah. I love it, it's funny, you know. It's just too funny because cats don't really understand like the whole level of the situation is way more than what people think it is. Yeah. Yeah. They are 8. It's okay. They're done. But I mean, I can't stop it from being what it is. It has to be that way. Yeah. It has to be just what it is. And one of the saddest things sometimes, I guess, with these types of situations is that like people don't sometimes see like how it's all really put together. all the dynamics of it. Um, like for example, I want you to really realize like all these all these groups that I'm talking about right now. I could talk about Iran. I could pull up articles about Iran. I just would have to go look for them in particular on like other websites. And I just don't feel like that. I could talk about the whole Middle East situation. I could talk about Yemen. You know, a lot of things I could talk about that would actually, make it different, I guess. But one of those things that I just don't care to really, put myself in the position of is just feeling as if there's there's more to it or less to it, because it is what it is. Um, sometimes people just don't. Sometimes people just don't believe what you're saying. You get what I'm saying? Like, I believe you guys understand because you guys are living in these situations. You guys are living in, in Texas, California, places that are directly affected by the stuff that I'm talking about. Um, so when you guys start seeing people that you've never seen before, who you can't put a direct finger on their race, and maybe they're polylingual, so they speak multiple languages. You're not going to be able to tell. Uh, I was working at a spot where the people I was working with were from Nepal, but some of the cats look Chinese, some of them look Hispanic, some of them look Indian, you know, like, and people be like, you can't worry about this type of shit, but it's like you have to worry about it because Top Dog is putting a certain atmosphere together. Those who are in charge, those who are jockeying for position. So, do the Chinese care about you getting brain cancer so long as they have global dominancy, or me getting brain cancer, or anything like that to push the 5G? So that way, not only does Huawei get major contracts, the ZTE also. I don't think they give a fuck. Does the U.S. care really about displacing black people with migrants by throwing them into poor communities or by shuttling them into poor communities all over the United States? No, I don't think they really care. Do you think they really care when they push lower middle class white people out of their neighborhoods and put them somewhere else and displace them? No, I don't think they really care about that either. But they really could give a damn about a nigga. So when you talk about the whole dynamic of the situation, Top Dog has put black people in like dire straits. And I don't even want to talk about the admissions thing too much because I don't want black people to start panicking. Like it's about to go down. It's only June 1st. It's about to go down. You know what I mean? Like we're only 6 months into the year, and I need y'all to understand the atmosphere. Like you're in a trade war where yeah, hey, yeah, man, they always look Indian and Chinese and all that stuff. They be looking hella funny. Not funny, but they look a range of characters. Anyway, uh, however, they don't want black people to understand the dynamics of the student loan situation. What happens when they really start to investigate everything? Man, who's going to stop them? It's the federal government. And who stops the federal government when there's like a joint task force between the feds and the state? So that way the state can clear itself of any wrongdoing on any level. Man, y'all better understand, man, this shit is about to go down. It's about to go down. And I can't really wait for it to really see what's going to happen because people don't believe me. You know, uh, Chicago not on fire like it was for a minute, but that place is, I don't know, somewhere in that general region, man, is not. They're poking the bear. Uh, the young boy that got killed for his brother. Now listen, his brother killed somebody supposedly or was a suspect. They killed the dude's brother. That type of shit is unacceptable. I don't give a fuck what played out with the situation with the police. The police are not supposed to have. Once again, when you operate with a certain level of zeal, things happen, and they're forcing these situations to happen where these young brothers are, putting themselves in situations to get killed. But what I'm trying to say to you is that black people don't really understand like the situation they're going to be in when the school shit jumps up. It's going to be the same thing, where let's say Tyrone Cummings owes I don't know $38,000 of like student loans to I don't know Kentucky State. The Kentucky State says, you know what? We've defaulted those loans to the government. The government says, okay, well, bam. The Department of Justice, okay, excuse me, I lied. The Department of Treasury and the Department of Justice are going to work on this. You know what I'm saying? Together, and they're going to send people from either agency to come collect. They're going to send one as an as a. They're going to send one as the as the primary force and the other one as an arbitrating force. And they're both going to be acting against you. Don't worry, they're going to be in lockstep against you. And Tyrone is like, you know what? Well, I've never been in this type of situation before. All right. I paid my loans off for hella years. My loans got super duper low. I was married. I was with this, in love with the woman, whatever. And let's not assume that she does anything wrong. Let's just say that she gets sick, right? Medical bills pile up. Can't pay his student loans like he was. Student loans reaccrue beyond the same level that they were at a certain point. And he's been taking care of his loved one for however long. Do you think they give a fuck? Really? Do you think they really care? I want y'all to understand. There were poor people during the housing crisis that went through situations like that. Um, they don't care. They don't care. Top dog does not care. I read to you $500 billion a business has that are pretty much owned by banks. If you really read between the lines, and are they regulated to where people can really control them? No, no. You can put your money up, and let's say the fucking markets change, it's over. You see what I'm saying? So it's all wickedness. It's all wickedness. You know, it's all wickedness. Um, I don't know. I just think of as it like a as like a it's like a precursor. Like everything we're seeing is what's gonna bring the end. There's no way that they can keep doing what they're doing and it not lead to something that's totally drastic, totally negative. Um, there's no way. I don't believe that. I don't believe that they can continue to do what they're doing, at all fronts. And I'm just trying to show you guys just different little facets of it. Like, well, look, this is here in the U.S. This is over there in China. This is going to be out of the U.S. Okay, in between Central and uh, Mexico. I mean, like Mexico is Mexico, I guess. It's not a continent. You feel me? You know what I mean? But like, it's its own country, and they're pretty much separate from Central America and South America, even though they're south of the border, so-called border. To me, it's all the same. Um, that's where we're at. Like we're dealing with like a really dangerous conundrum where if people don't pay attention, because everything that's happening everywhere is going to affect them. There's no way the college admission stuff doesn't affect people who went to college. Like it affects you. Like unless they're totally paid up, don't owe no more money, that shit affects you because it could turn on its head and have you in a situation where you have to explain your finances to people. You see what I'm saying? And nobody really looks at it like that because it hasn't happened. You know what I mean? People don't realize. Like, I remember it was an instance in Britain, some maybe like 2 years ago, year and a half ago, but I want to say like the better part of 2 years ago. This bank did a bail in, and the bail in was like the first time ever like anybody had ever heard of a bank pretty much going, and they took all the assets from the people who had money and everything in the bank invested, and they took it. Um, Now I'm not sure exactly what came of this, of this bank, but I know like they're no longer in like service. They took the money to pretty much pay like, I guess they said that they were in debt, and I'm trying to figure out how does a bank really get in debt unless they're doing stuff that they're not supposed to do. And anyway, and at any rate, it hadn't happened really like that. You know what I mean? And I'm sure things have happened on a small scale, but nothing like that had ever happened. Like where it was like a couple £1 billion, were taken. Like, and never to be heard from again. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like that's how they do it. And I'm sure there's people who got some of their money back, but I'm sure a lot of them didn't get shit back. Uh, how do people not see like a situation like that could be where it's not the same as a student loan thing, but it's very similar as far as like a first case precedent. You know, they could easily tell you like, okay, well, look, we understand that in the past, in years past, this sort of action wasn't taken against people, but nowadays it is. So that's it. You know what I mean? And now you're locked up, going to jail. And it's really hard for people to really understand that concept because they don't get what you're dealing with is a force, that has a reputation of working against the people. Um, um, they think that they get it, but they steadily hold in lockstep, hand in hand, the same shit they've been doing for like the last. Like, I'll give you a prime example, and they can take this however. Yeah, yeah. I mean, for the most part, yeah, those payday loan places work and operate a lot like banks, very much so. This is why they created those little fake little cards, you know. But that's the see, but payday loan places have taken that same role. You know what I mean? Payday loan places have messed people's credits up. You know, taking out loans that they didn't pay back or couldn't pay back on time, dashed their credit. It happens. It happens to people. Uh, oh, it was home loans. Oh, even worse. Even worse. Even worse. Even worse. Even worse. Even worse. Because that's way worse. That's way worse. Because I could only imagine the sort of people that were given loans or were able to get loans that accrued debt that they couldn't pay back. That I can't stress to you guys enough the whole top dog mentality. This applies to the little man too. It applies to people who want to go buy a house. Like, like I don't really want to so much own a home uh, uh, as it is. I just don't want to give all my money for hella years to an apartment. You understand what I'm saying? But at the same time, though, it's like there's just always a give and take. I've lived in houses, that I've never owned a house, but I've lived in houses, that I was renting. So I mean, like, I know the difference between living in a house and living in an apartment, and it's like I can't really see the difference between, you know what I'm saying? Like it's all the same to me. Whether you have the house or the apartment, if you don't have nowhere to live at night, you don't got shit. You know what I'm talking about? So uh, uh, it's just about being, but generating income is all based on it. Once again, that's why I was reading what I was reading earlier. all this stuff is based on markets that these groups, that these people buy so much into that they have such an effect on. And they play top dog when they do that because let's just say a person owns 30 properties all over the city, right? But your 30 properties fall within two different business lines that this person's operate within, that this group is operating within, that they operate within. So not one of your 30 properties is outside of their area of influence. That affects you adversely because now if they do something to drive down all the properties in that area, all your properties become worth less. Right on. You have to deal with the aftermath of that. Of course, if they do something to increase the property value, all your properties become worth more. But still, then now you have to find people who can either afford to either buy that property from you, or people who can afford to rent the property from you, like you said, so that way it can accrue income. You know, uh, uh, it's a it's a it's a major thing though. You see what I'm saying? And this is why it's like I know people really don't follow everything that I say. Like I know they try to. And I know, and God bless their hearts. You know what I mean? You feel me? I'm not being rude, you know what I mean? God bless their hearts for trying to follow your boy. But I'm really not stupid at all. It's like I just don't invest that sort of energy in those types of things because I understand already. you know, I could tell a person exactly how much money they're going to spend on interest on their home. All I need to know is exactly how many years of interest it is, how much your house costs. That's it. And I'll tell you how much you're going to pay in interest, real quick, real quick, and the percentage of interest also. Thank you very much. That's it. That's it. That's all I need. That's all I need, and I'll tell you how much you're actually going to pay for your house and all that. I can tell you a lot of different little things. I could tell people how to do accounting if I wanted to. They don't even know. You see what I'm saying? It's like I want them to understand that there are groups that have so much influence. You don't think China can affect the way you live, my people? You're on instruments that more than likely came from China, or they have their fingerprint on it, more than likely. So if that's the case, then you need to understand that the role that they're going to play and trying to be top dog because you have another player who's trying to be top dog above them. Uh, there's no such thing as a guarantee. As long as you understand that you can be in the real estate game. If you don't understand that there's no such thing as a guarantee, then you can't be in real estate. And it's not a gamble. It's not a precise gamble. It's not a calculated gamble. It's nothing like that. It's just understanding how people feel, understanding the property that you're dealing with, the markets that are around the property that you're dealing with. Um, you know, it's always good to try to get some real estate in a place that they're building businesses in. If they're building a bunch of businesses that are going to generate jobs and generate income, you should want to have a residence, or maybe even your own commercial business, a place where you're renting, or a place that you use as your own business front, you know what I'm saying, to make money. But these are like, once again, I can't even tell people stuff like that because it's beyond me. You know what I mean? Because they're like, well, where's your business at? And it's like, once again, the struggles that I face as me are not the struggles that you face as you. And I can't tell a person how to live their life. You understand what I mean, sister? All I can do is say, like, look, this is what the information says. You know, uh, I used to drop little golden nuggets like that every once in a while, but it's like people think that everybody else knows more than me. So, but in real life, the dudes that they think that they know more than me, I school those dudes all the time. So I just think it's funny, like, you know what I'm saying? It's hella funny, you know. Oh, the location is far more important than the building, but that's what I'm saying is like, If they're building up an area, you're always going to have a better chance, especially if, like, so for example, if you can invest at any point for building up an area or when an area is before its apex, it's always good to get in, even if it's going to cost you a lot of money because you can normally make your money back. But if you can invest in an area when it's nothing because you see the potential, you're like, oh, one day this shit's going to blow up. And then 10, 20, 30 years later, or maybe even just a couple years later, it just blows up enormous. And then now you're eating forever because you're like, until God comes back, I'm gonna have this property. I'm not gonna sell it out unless somebody's gonna buy it out for ridiculous. It's not this ain't the the damn railroad days with the government and land barons. Where the Westerns will try to placate the government as being this honorable force. Every once in a while, they're pointed out to being the real villains that they are, and they seek to villainize or to make the antagonist the land baron. And still, I have yet to think of a Western I've seen where a land baron is a good guy. Um, um, but because of that sort of thing where you don't know who's going to be in control, and you don't know who's in charge, and you don't know how they're going to operate when they get there. All you can do is try to get your piece. But once again, this is into that same top dog mentality. Is am I going to settle for less because I'll settle for that, or will I seek to achieve what it is that I know that I can achieve? And it's not about having dreams of living in a palace while you're in a place that you know probably is going to go down. No, it's about you living as comfortable as you can possibly live while everything is going to go down around you, is going down around you. So that way you can maintain your bearing and maintain your sanity. At the end of the day, I don't think people really understand enough. Like when I say, like, it's really about you staying alive. Um, can't stress it enough. I bet you Paul Allen would have traded every dollar he had if he could have stayed alive. And he's like, you know what? Like, you know, I mean, but that's all based on how people see it. Like at the little spot I was working at, I was working on houses. Some of them were like, I think the most expensive house I worked on was either the one I was at right before I fell out with the little dude, or the last one I was at. Either one of those houses was worth 3 million easily. The one house at the end, maybe 2.5 million, but the one house before that worth like 3 million. You know what I'm saying? Like it was. These are people who are like, all white people, or like uh, guys who had communication jobs in the military. You know what I'm saying? Uh, uh, what's the word I'm talking about? Looking for aviation guys in the military. You know what I'm saying? If people are going into the military, avionics is always a good one. Especially if you're going to really seek to like go into like fixing aircraft or being an engineer like in like the latter years. Being an engineer in the military is always a good one. A water technician is always a good one. That's really an excellent one. If you get a water technician job in the military, you know what I mean? You can normally come out and get bomb ass jobs doing anything almost anywhere. Uh, of course, the Chinese do. The Chinese want everything. They want everything that's worth something because they think it's worth something. But once again, they're sick. You know what I'm talking about? They can't help themselves. So don't blame them for their ways of being. They can't. They really, like, I'm not even talking down on them. I'm just saying, like, they're really sick. They have illness, um, which is why they're in the situation that they're in now. If you want to talk about them, um, they're 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 going to put the world in a bad position. Yeah, because Well, see, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You you can only be so ambitious before you're greedy. And even with all the virtues, if you're still greedy at the end of it, you're only a greedy person who who is utilizing the foliage or coverage of a virtue to further their own agenda. Not really somebody who actually believes what they're saying. Uh, a great case in point, the dude Jack Ma, who used to run Alibaba, right? You know, and I don't knock his hustle. He got paid. But Jack Ma, he allowed on his website, you know what I mean, to be sold everything bootleg. Everything was bootleg. There's a lot of bootleg shit on Alibaba right now. You can buy for thousands of dollars cheaper than you can for the real thing. So let's say you wanted to buy like a print press, right? They can ship it here and it might cost 3 times, 4 times less than a really actual official print press. Now you might need to buy 2 or 3 of these things before you get one that's good. But if you get one that works right off tops, then you saved a whole bunch of money. And Alibaba is like that same type of concept where where they drove out of business people who used to make quality products. And this is really what happened. You know, I'm not just going to blame Alibaba, but it's just concepts like Alibaba from the Chinese who will steal your creative ingenuity, okay? But they're not doing anything different than white people did. And the only different thing that white people can say is that, well, we at first we used to make things to last, but it's like you learn from black people how to make it last forever. So there's a reason it lasts forever. There's a reason it lasts for such a long time, you know. Um, and I'm not saying that only black people understand this concept, but that's that's really like a large part of how these things work is that they they steal the ideas of everybody else, right? Boom, they make a cheap watered down version of it, mass produce it, send it out there to the world, flood the market with it, flood it so much to where people are going to buy their cheap product because they can't afford the higher quality, better quality product that they probably should save their money to buy. But if circumstances and situations dictate I need this in particular product, then I'm going to settle for a lesser quality product for a lesser price. There's no argument there. And this is how the Chinese get people. But you got to realize, man, the Chinese are lacing all their products with lead. Like everything that the Chinese send to you got some damn lead in it. You know, especially if it's for the babies, it's got lead in it. Trying to fucking make your baby mentally retarded. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, this is how I know that these people don't really understand what they're doing. You follow what I mean? You know, um, they produce products that are toxic, that they won't even accept back into their own country, that they pushed out of their country. Right. So this is the type of shit that you need to understand you're dealing with. Like you're not dealing with people who can even rationalize, proper logic. Okay. All right. They're no different than their white counterparts if they want to be just like they're just like them. Only difference between them once again is that they seem virtuistic when they want to, but ultimately they're greedy. You know what I'm saying? And that's their downfall. That's going to be their downfall. It's not going to be they had too much opulence, and that's why. No, because the whole nation of China doesn't have opulence. There's many people who are poor and don't have a thing, a pot to piss in or a window to pour it out. I was going to pull up this article about how the elderly in China. They said that there's a link between the elderly suicide and the hot weather, and they said that this last winter was the warmest one that they had on had on record. But what I really wanted to push it was the economic climate in China has pushed a lot of those old people to kill themselves in the last few months. And they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear like you've made it so hard for your grandmother and your grandfather to live. You've you've made it so hard for a regular person to sustain themselves. You get me? And they're all living in the rat race. Every single one of them is living in the rat race. So this is why situations most people will overlook. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to overlook a situation like that if I say, well, the guy who lives in this country doesn't treat his situation the same way you do. And black people are known, for example, like they always want to say, well, black people go and they buy Jordans and they do this and they do that. But there's Asian people who live in poor Asian countries who gamble all their money, all of it, gamble every fucking scintilla of it. So you can't talk about the condition of black people until you can address the condition of all these other people who don't have a reason, okay, to be as downtrodden as black people are, who don't have a reason to be irresponsible. They just willfully, wantonfully are, okay? And so when you can, once again, cut that line down the middle, then you can see the whole top dog effort. Why it is that these groups are going to fail. Black people want to be top dog. When this is the whole thing. If as a black person, you say that you believe in the Most High God and you believe that he sent his people here to be punished amongst the worst of the heathen, just follow me. There's no way that you can tell me that you should be blessed and blessed and blessed and just never see a hard day. There should never be a struggle, and that your whole life shouldn't leave you in question as to whether or not, what is or what isn't. Because any person who can tell me that they feel so confident that how they live their life, that they're for sure making it into the pearly gates, you're a liar. It's like, what's realistic is like you feel confident about the decisions you've made. I can stand with that. But there's no person who lives on earth that's going to tell me that they're making it to heaven. I don't believe it. You know what I mean? There's people that I look at that I think that I've seen in bad positions who I'm like, they have to make it because of what they've been through. But for me as a person, I'm not living out on the street. I have food in my fridge. If I so please to, I can go spend money right now. Um, like there's a lot of different little things, you know. I'm not living in la la land, and black people want to be blessed, and they don't want to have the curses, or they don't want to have the accountability that is supposed to be placed upon them. You follow what I'm saying? You know, you can't have something and then not help your fellow brother man. You know, you can't. It it goes against the entire code and the entire understanding of what black people are supposed to do. And give me one moment. Okay. That's the whole thing though, sister, is people want it for the white people wanted it cheap first. Black people made it infectious. Wanted for the infamous dolo, for the down low. Can you dig it? All right, because black people made the dolo such a I need it for as little as possible, right? I need it on GP if I can. But they learned this from, well, this is in our DNA. You can read the Bible and read that it's in our DNA to be like this. But we picked up a really bad habit from white people who really didn't know that the people that you were dealing with are really way more vicious than you think they are. See what I'm saying? Like if they understood the level that black people were operating at, they wouldn't have taught black people. So they wouldn't even showed it to black people to begin with. Because White dudes are always going to be like that. They're lazy. You feel what I'm saying? I'm never surprised to hear what white dudes say. I want somebody else to do my work for me. Because a brother will be like, I got the blueprint. I want everybody to follow this blueprint, and the quality should always be within a certain range, and it's like, as opposed to him ensuring the quality is always at the top level. And it's just about because people are willing to sell out, for the most part. First of all, he implied that he was hired to produce all the items for his company. Then he was, and then on to there. Yeah, I don't blame you. Excuse me. Right. Oh yeah, because he went from potentially making some money to now I don't make no money. That's how life goes. But that's why the online community to me is just so cutthroat. That's why I don't do a lot of stuff online. You know what I mean? It's too cutthroat, way too cutthroat for me. Um, um, because people like him make it to where it's like you have to be cutthroat. Like there's no, you feel me? There's no middle ground. People like him create the cutthroat atmosphere. Like it's over, bro. Bloop, you're out of here. So because if you don't, they'll bring you down. They'll bring down your whole enterprise. You know. But just to speak to like cheap goods, you know, um, there's nothing wrong if you get something that's normally worth a lot more for a lot cheaper. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with people getting something for cheaper that costs more. What I have a problem with is that you desire it to be cheap like that all the time. I think that uh well, I mean, if he was making good money with you, then yeah, he's not feeling it. He can't be feeling it. His life has obviously made a change. But that's what I'm saying, though, sister, is that cheap goods are cheap is cheap, and then there's a difference between something that is low quality, and there's a difference between something that's cheap that just doesn't cost you very much. And I think that that low quality goods, which can still sometimes be expensive, are what people should avoid. But that's neither here nor there, because I can't tell people once again how to spend their money. They're gonna spend it how they feel is best and is orderly to them and and to their household. So there's that understanding. Yeah, exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. I don't even want to take it there. Exactly. For it to get that cheap, somebody's got to pay for on the back end. Somebody's paying for it. There's no other way to it. You know, there's no other way to it. On the back end, somebody pays for that. And normally with sweat equity. And I can't live with myself knowing that a person had to do something that I could do for myself uh uh at a rate where they're pretty, here's the problem with the cutthroat culture. Cutthroat culture makes other people cut their own neck to do business. You feel me? So that's the problem with cheap is that slave labor makes you cut your own neck. You know what I'm saying? You know, because now in order to feed my family, well, I got to sacrifice something somewhere. You know. Yep. 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 He was thinking, shit. I don't know who she thinks she is. She's just a black person to me. If he's a white dude, you feel me? And you know what I'm saying? You're a black person. I mean, like, like you really can't you can't front on how they're gonna how they're gonna look at the situation. They see it totally different. You know what I'm saying? Like they see everything way different than how we see it. You know, that's like if I go to a spot, like just to keep it in the same context. If I go to a business and I know I'm going somewhere that's like nicer, you know. But let's say I'm going to a business, right? And I'm going to like somewhere nicer and I'm not dressed to the par. Like there's a lot of really nice businesses here in Tacoma. Very nice businesses. And sometimes I just don't care and I'll go into a spot, but I'll have more than enough money to buy whatever it is that I need. And um to make it to where because women normally are the cashiers at like I'd say about 70% of the places, 65 to 70% of the time, women are cashiers around here. So, you know, it's easy to run into like an elderly woman or a woman who's just older and she's a white woman, you know what I'm saying? And I'm a young black dude. And it's so like, maybe not a day like today where my hair is a little picked out, where I don't look as rough. But a day where I just don't care, just don't give a damn, I'm not going to a spot looking any old kind of way, you know, and what I want might cost a certain amount of money. You get what I'm talking about? Now, I understand off tops to make her feel comfortable before I even start walking around or start doing anything. I might go into my pocket and just pull, act like I'm looking for something and pull my money out and move it from one hand and put it into my other pocket just so she can see I have money. So I'm not in here to steal shit. Not in here to steal a damn thing. It's the same mentality. As much as a white chick will say, "Oh, I have a black nephew," or "My children are black," if that let's say that black man done did her wrong, or let's say that her black nephew is a character that is always involved in certain capers, then she's gonna become or have grown to have a certain mentality, right, against black men. And that's just normal. That's just what it is. This environment allows, invites, and promotes that. You see what I'm saying? So, and people are like, "Well, you're doing business with this dude, and you're right. It's no different. I'm doing business, but now I'm just a customer. I'm not trying to be a business partner. I'm just trying to be somebody who is a buyer of your goods. You follow what I'm saying? And and even on that level, I have to show my merit that I'm not a person who's here to cause trouble or to make trouble, because all the black men you're used to seeing have a clean shaven face, or what they consider clean shaven. Their hair is cut, right? They wear clothes with faggot creases in them. And when I was a child, I was taught that only homosexuals crease their clothes. Uh, it's funny because the Bible tells people not to crease their clothes, but I'm gonna keep it off that line and keep it pushing. Yeah, I don't do anything that these other guys do, so I have to present myself as somebody who is a what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Serious business dealer. I mean to do good business. Right. So if it costs $250.38, I'm going to give you every single dollar that it costs, and every single penny. They're not going to come here and say, "Oh, can I get a deal?" Or well, can I speak to the manager because maybe they'll give me a deal, to underscore a belief in their mind that I, as a black man, don't want to pay what it's worth. Right on. I don't want to pay the piper. I don't want to pay the cost to be the boss. However it is that they equate it, antiquate. See, because they're going to render it to something. Hopefully not to nothing. But that's what it is though. I hate how people don't really understand this is where you're going to be led to in the future, dealing with these characters that we deal with. There's a fine line, you know what I mean, between right and wrong, or whatever you call that. There's a fine line. There's an even finer line between um, doing good business and bad business. See, in your sis, in your situation, sister, I can only speak to one thing outside of the fact that this is just somebody who I've dealt with so many white people who try to get everything for the low. Like there was a time when I used to this is before guns got to, like people were shooting people all the time with them and stuff like that. Um, this is years ago. This is like 6 years ago. And I used to buy guns, and people who let's say didn't feel like going to go get their gun license, this, that, and the other. But let's say you had a clean record, right? But like you just didn't want to go do all that. Okay, I got you, bro. Boom. Give me the money. I'm gonna go get the gun for you. We're going to legitimately write everything all over. It's all good. Gun laws were differently years ago than they are now. So a part of good business back then was if I bought you a gun, right? Because even though you're giving me the money, essentially I'm going to go get the gun. I'm going to go put it in my name first. Even when we do all the paperwork, if you go out and do something foolish or reckless with this weapon, it'll still somehow, some way, shape, or form come back to me. Even though you're not a felon, even though you're legitimately able to have a firearm, it'll still come back to me because I purchased the weapon. Now, with that said, I've never had that. I've never, ever had that happen. Ever. Never. I've never had a situation where somebody went and got caught up with the gun, went and killed somebody, or got caught in a robbery, or just any kind of dumb shit. Never. Because I've never sold a gun to somebody who I thought didn't practice good judgment. You know what I'm saying? Um, um, I think the one time I sold a gun to somebody where they actually used it, and like I heard about it, was the situation where this dude used his gun in self-defense and he got off. You know what I mean? He didn't do no time in prison or nothing like that. He got off. The gun was clean. He was clean. I mean, so it was like, But anyway, back to the whole point of just doing good business. People have to pay you that luxury tax. You know what I'm saying? If this guy's not bringing a luxury to the game, I'm not paying you a luxury tax because you think you being here is a luxury to me. Because you're not a luxury. You follow what I'm saying? Your presence is not a luxury. This isn't and this is why skill-based efforts are so important. Because, sister, if you're the one who's producing, which you are in your case, it's an insult to have a person to make it seem as if, oh, well, I can get all these low quality workers to mass produce your high quality work, and I want you to do it now at a cheaper rate. And it's like, no, you're not going to get a high quality design, mass produce it for the dirt, get paid a whole bunch of money, and then want to give me the dirt for it. No, it's not how it works. But that's just people though. That's just people. Once again, I've done so much business. People don't even understand how and to the level I really understand this, you know, uh, and which is the greater effort of this whole topic talking about the top dog thing, because if you really want to be in charge of something in your life, let's just speak on the personal effort while I'm still here. Is if you want to be top dog in your life, you know what I mean? You need to know that all your efforts produce everything that you need. Did you hear me, y'all? Every one of your efforts should produce everything that you need. So if you need clothes or food, right on, whatever it is that you think that you desire, right? But it should be a necessity. It should be a desirable need. If you desire it, it should be a desirable necessity. Okay, it shouldn't be a desirable want or glorification of your persons. So you should be able to satisfy everything you need within the functions that you provide and service every day. You know, that's how you're top dog in your life. You let these other characters and classes and entities play top dog when they're playing. Because I can't stop JP Morgan. I don't have the juice, the power, the energy. I don't have all the, I mean, I have the basic know how, but I don't have the intricate inner working know how to stop a group like that. You follow what I'm saying? So I would have to be in it and around it more to see what would really bring them down in one fell swoop. And that's about all these places, because we're not there normally, because we're not practicing that sort of life. All we can do is be top dog in our life. That's really what I'm. That's really the whole point about all this, is that you need to be in charge of yourself. Okay, and this goes back to being 10 toes down and everything else that I've ever said about being serious about what you're about. Because if you're not who you say you are, at the end of the day, it's gonna show. So, for example, all these guys are the so-called activists and this, that, and the other. When are one of your activists gonna go to jail? Huh? Huh? When are one of your activists gonna get into a real physical confrontation with their so-called enemy, the white supremacists? Huh? When? See, and it's because of this, right? I say just be top dog in your life, because these people want you to follow them the same way the Chinese want people to follow the Huawei company, want people to follow the ZTE company. The same way that the Chinese, who are probably working lockstep with the Taliban, who are working lockstep with the cartel, all through Central and South America, have encouraged all those migrants to come up through the border, come up through Mexico, and do all that. China's imprint can be felt everywhere. But when you play a dangerous game like they're playing, when you play a dangerous game like they're playing, you can find out the hard way. You can find out the real hard way. I learned something. You can't encourage people to not be heroes. They're going to want to be a hero. You know what I'm saying? That's who they are. You can't tell people that. You can just say, hey, look, man, if you do that, that might get you hurt. Because in their heart of hearts, even though I touched with my right hand on the wrong side, in their heart of hearts, they're not trying to hear that they're not a hero. You follow me? So if you're talking to a person who is already bent on a certain level of thinking, all you can do is get out the way. And this is the whole mentality of uh, the top dog, is if you're already taking care of your situation for you, can't nobody tell you nothing. You feel what I'm saying? I can't tell you shit, because at the end of the day, you're taking care of what everything that matters for you. But I can inform you of certain events that are taking place that may or may not impact your everyday life. You may not look at it like that, but I look at it like that. It's only been a few months since the trash thing happened with China. I can't wait. See, and the reason why it hasn't really jumped off too bad is because they're still buying all the clean cardboard, they're buying all the clean stuff still. And every once in a while they get some dirty stuff and they'll take that. But once they get tired of that and they're like, no, it has to be cleaned and processed properly, the plants that take in the trash will have to charge more money because they'll have to clean it properly to actually make money on it. So in order for either the landfills are going to fill up super duper disgusting, nasty, and gross, way more than what they already are, right? Or they're going to create another subdivision of people to clean and treat everything that they can clean and treat, and they're going to charge more money to do this because you can't have the trash. If you live in the Midwest, and I know that none of us really here do, but the Midwest is like a really good locale, and it's a specified location because the major waterways, unless you live in the northern part, don't lead to any sort of a larger, greater waterways that can escape the country. So, and this is the problem because the trash is shipped out from either the East Coast or the West Coast. Showed you guys this stuff last year, about how out here in Tacoma has arguably the country's best, so probably one of the world's best facilities for processing garbage. And I just think that that people will overlook it until it is impacting them in their pockets. And people who have a couple extra dollars to spend aren't going to complain about the increase of $10 a month. You know what I'm saying? $8 a month or whatever. They're not gonna complain about that. But somebody who's barely making it is gonna notice a $10 increase on their fucking trash bill. Somebody who's living in a place where they're even further more desolate and they have to drive all the trash out to somewhere and have it dumped, they're gonna notice and feel the pinch of having to pay more money to have all the trash dumped. There's no way there's no way that it can't happen. It's impossible that doesn't happen. It has to happen. Just like they sent in the damn ATF and whoever the fuck else to Chicago. Like I said, they were going to send in the feds. They're waiting till something happens in that place so they can send in a damn National Guard. That's why they haven't sent. That's why they're not spent on sending everybody down there to the border or sending, because they're waiting for situations in the places where they're playing real estate god at right now to blow up and to deteriorate. This is a fact. You can't lie about it. I can't make this shit up. But they don't have to do it with you paying attention because they got all this different stuff going on. You got a new shooting every other week, every other day, it seems like. So it's hard to pay attention to their efforts to quell the people and to subject the people when their same very efforts are to keep the people distracted from what the hell it is that they're doing and that they're up to. Right. That's their top dog effort. That's them trying to stay on top and not lose what they believe or what people call supremacy. I'm not sold on that. I'm sold on a mandated position that is day by day losing its effectiveness and its preemptiveness as a mandate. So the more and more, and the further and further we go, the less and less and less their mandate will hold charge. This is a fact. So if people who are here right now live long enough to see the end come, you're going to see the end of their mandate come and manifest in this life. If it's coming sooner than they want it to. that meal fit for the king will never get to his lips. But we're holding this year to the fire. We got 6 more months to go. 2019 has got what 180 days now, 180 something, 182 or whatever. Got another 182 to go. I would effectively say, I mean, I'm not saying that the world couldn't come to apocalyptic standards in 182 days, but it's more and more and more and more and more and more. Oh, 2019 is looking like a mythological year and a mythological creation from people who were misguiding and misleading the people. Possibly even some of those shepherds we read about in the book of Enoch the other day, but we'll catch up on that later. We'll catch up on that tomorrow or Monday. Thinking Tammy's birthday. Sister Tammy's birthday is going to be the day that I do a breakdown, a serious breakdown, a book for. It's going to be a lot of Bible reading. It's probably going to take about 3 or 4 hours. It's going to be a long time. It's going to be a long, 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 long time because there's a bunch of different scripture that has to get covered. You know, you're so funny, but no, this is serious. I'm serious. You know, you give me a day off. I watched the NBA Finals. I watched my guy Kawhi Leonard ball out. Little, well, not little, because Pascal Siakam was like 6'9". I watched my little Middle Earth homie Pascal Siakam ball out. I'm trying to tell y'all, man. Every time I see these dudes who have like, like this very, like this script look, dark skin, light skin, whatever, medium tone skin, and they look a certain type of way. Just like these dudes are straight from Middle Earth, man. These dudes are, straight from a comic book, And I mean, it's not to be rude, but that's just niche. So before I close this out, because I'm getting off track. I would really love for y'all to really pay attention to how the powers that be have tried and are going to try to keep and maintain their power the best way that they know how. Trump doesn't know anything about sending troops or sending agents to South America. Never heard about the Obama administration, the Bush administration, Clinton administration. I've never heard about no such thing, as far as sending people there to flow the tide of immigration, to flow the tide of drugs, maybe, yeah, but not the tide of immigration. So when you talk about these people who are being singled out for coming to the country, you know, I'm like, there's more to it. There's a lot more to it because why can't they just deny entry? Like, who's to stop them from denying entry to the country? You follow what I'm saying? Like, why can't they? Is it because you have a deal with Mexico? You can't do. See, it's like, once again, all these things you have to really look at and like bring into question, like, who's really top dog? Who's really in charge? Who's in charge here? Mm. See how epic it is? Mm-hmm. Who's in charge here? Who controls the situation? Who who stands to gain the most or lose the most in this situation? And I know a lot of people don't want to hear stuff like that because they're like, oh, that's not really that important, but really, it's actually very important. Because we need to know as a people. You need to know as a man or a woman, man or a woman, as to who's affecting your everyday life, how it is that they're going to affect your everyday life. Everybody who's living in one of these states that border Mexico, the shit that they're doing down there in South America could very well affect your everyday life, especially if you're living around people who are affected by the situation. You don't know because you don't know that person. And if you do know that person, then maybe you're sort of kind of aware of the sorts of things that could take place, but you have no idea, you know. I can't stress it enough to y'all. Man, be on the lookout. These motherfuckers are losing their mind every day. They're losing their mind every day. I'm glad that y'all don't have to go out, and engage too much into the world. But when you do have to, please be careful because the shit is dangerous. It's gotten to a whole new level of straight stupidity with people. You know, I'm saying all this to say this. I couldn't tell you who the top dog is. I don't know who it is. I don't know. I don't know who the exact beneficiary of all the fuckery is. You could say it's the devil. You could say whatever. You know, I'm not really sure. But I'll tell you this much. I'm not fucking with it. I tell you, my people, be good and be safe because they're trying to kill every single one of us as fast as they can. But outside of them trying to kill you, they want you to play into the same game that they've been trying to get all of us to play into for who knows how many years. But there's only one most high. There's only one top dog. He's not a dog, but you understand what I'm saying? There's only one most high God. These people are trying to vie for a position on this planet that is most like that. You need to be the chief author and editor of good things in your life. So that way the bad things that happen, you can also blame on yourself. If you follow their ways, you'll have a fate much like theirs. With that said, I wish nothing but gratitude and safety and peace and mercy from and to the Most High, to his humble and lowly servants. I'm trying to tell y'all, this year is our year to be able to rub piping hot excrement in people's faces next year who are so-called Hebrew Israelites who think they know something. We'll be able to break it down on them. Don't worry about it.